do you do when you're being malpracticed? Hi, my name is Julie. I was born into the Christian Science church and religion, and after 40 years, I went my own way. And I feel like that brought me back to Mrs. Eddy's original teachings and the original purpose of Christian Science, which is the healing of sin. Sin being the belief of life, truth, intelligence, and substance and matter. Being malpracticed can be experienced in lots of different ways. Oftentimes, something that you're dealing with, either for a friend or for yourself, may seem exacerbated. Like right now, I am having a hard time breathing. And this issue seems to be something that one of my friends that I help them with, deals with. But right now it seems to be more difficult for me to deal with than normal. What I always do when I'm ever feeling off in any way, feeling out of tune, feeling governed by mortal mind, feeling ill, is I get quiet and I listen. That's the first thing I always do. I think we were taught to just start treating right away and get out our books and find some statements that work. But, God is an ever-present help in trouble. And what I've learned is it's best to get quiet and listen if you can. And sometimes you just can't, and you might have to argue your way out of it, however you can do that. But I like to listen, and it's interesting, like, if you're being malpracticed, you might hear the word hatred. You might be aware that people are hating you, or people are angry with you, or people don't understand you, or they're jealous of you. It could be any of those things. 99.99999% of us are malpracticing 99.999% of the time, because malpractice is simply the bland denial of the truth. And the truth is that we're not these bodies, we're not these personalities. And if we pretty much go around all of the time thinking we're these bodies, that we have these jobs and these families, and we live in this world, this earth, with earth responsibilities. So just by believing that and thinking that others are doing the same thing, that's the bland denial of truth. So it's happening all the time. But sometimes there's more of a directed malpractice, and it's typically ignorant malpractice, which means someone is being governed by mortal mind. They, for some reason, don't like us. Something we said hurt their feelings or made them self-righteous, like feel like, oh, I've got to protect this or protect that concept. They could be jealous. But most of the time, it's like sometimes, as with, I talked about, there is directed malpractice that's not ignorant, that's malicious. And some people in this mortal dream engage in that, and with an intent to hurt the other person. But you know, in a certain way, and you could really look at it as ignorant, because they're so being governed by mortal mind, by the human ego, that they don't know what they're doing, and it is ignorant. Even that they think that, maybe it seems malicious, but it's still that they're being governed by mortal mind. Anyone malpracticing they're deluded to believe an illusion. They don't know what they're doing. They're being governed by the human ego, by mortal mind, whether it's for whatever reason it is. But it is something that we have to deal with, since we are mental beings. We are spirit. We are divine mind, or an all-knowingness. What really goes on in the universe is thoughts. Because we're all really a mind and not a body. Soul and not body. And so really, you may be seeing me talking in front of a video screen, but that's not really what's going on. There's something going on in mind, and we're only seeing it visibly as like someone talking in a screen, but that's not really what's happening. There's converse, there's communion. Things are going on at a much different level that the mind, mortal mind, is only interpreting this way. When you read a book, you're not really reading words. You're not really turning paper. Something is going on at the level of mind. A communion with ideas. Reflecting on ideas. Reflecting on truth. If it's a book of truth. I think the important part of when you know you're being malpracticed, or you're being told you're being hated, or someone is jealous of you, is to turn to God right away and just start listening. And then to really know that what's really going on is you're spiritual beings, and far beyond and above this mortal illusion. And it may seem that that person, that individual, is enamored with or really believes in the illusion. Like, for instance, if someone from the church thought that I shouldn't be talking because I'm not an authorized mouthpiece of the church, that is something they're thinking on the level of the mortal universe. Like, in this mortal universe of illusion, there is a mortal church with mortal rules, and those rules govern who can speak about Christian Science. And this person is not following those rules, and they're leading people astray. If someone thinks that I'm leading people astray, they're on this level that this material world is real. Because anything where you think something's wrong and not going the way it should be, that's all on the level of the mortal universe. We're all spiritual beings way far beyond this mortal universe. Like, we're not from here. This isn't our home. It's a dream state, just like the sleeping dream. Just like Mrs. Eddy says, the sleeping dream and the waking dream. Same thing. They're the same. So this individual or individuals really are, they're hooked into the dream. And they're hooked into the dream through the sense of needing to protect, needing to fight for what's right, be the true warrior. The Mother Church had a annual meeting one year. It was a church of healers. What does it mean to be a healer? Well, you only have healers in the material universe, because in spirit, where we're all really truly exist, there is nothing out of alignment. There's nothing that needs healing. The only belief that we need healing occurs at the level of the mortal mind, the material human ego. Only the human ego, only mortal mind would ever think it needed healing. And so to have a bunch, an annual meeting that says we need healing because we're not spirit yet, or because we're not perfect yet, and so we're healers. We're supposed to be the ones healing the world. That's kind of the standpoint that a malpractitioner might take. They're really, 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 that's what they think. They think that they've got to heal and they've got to change things and make things better. And there's no understanding that there is truth, a real state of being as divine love is going on all the time. It's never not going on. It never stopped while we dipped down into the belief of moral existence. It never was affected. Soul was never affected by this little belief of moral existence. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I gotta fix this, blah 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 blah. It's not real. It's not real to God, and it doesn't need to be real to us. But if you call yourself a healer, or you think you need to heal something, you're really buying into the dream. And it can be really difficult because you're starting at the standpoint of the error, trying to work yourself out of the error. When, that's to strike out right and left against the mist never really clears it, but to lift your head above it is a sovereign panacea. That's from Mrs. Eddy from Science and Health. That's where you need to stay. It's to stay above it in the state of, okay, in perfection, in the great I am, in soul, in spirit, life, truth, and love. Is there anything going on that's out of alignment with truth? No, that's just happening in the dream illusion. And what we see as healing is that we see the illusion dissipate as we ascend the ladder of thought. The illusion dissipates. The really low-hanging fruit starts. That's the errors that are just like, right in our faces. Those start to dissipate first. And that's why you see the healing of illness, and relationships and financial problems, because as the individual is ascending, their ascending thought doesn't think the way it used to, and it's not creating this veil over the truth like it used to. In the story of Jesus, it's really interesting, like how everyone was so mad at him. So many people were mad at him and hated him. So he had to have dealt with malpractice, all the time. And the Sanhedrin was the governing body for the Jewish religion. And, you know, they were very angry. And, you know, that this person would go against all the law that they thought was the law and the rules and traditions and do his own thing and say it was coming from God, you know. And we all know of, I don't know if I'm pronouncing Gamaliel, Gamaliel, was, I think we all know that name from the Bible. I'll see if I can, yeah, it doesn't have a, and what did he say to the Sanhedrin? You know, if it's not from God, it's going to fail. If it's of human origin, it's going to fail. But if it's it's divine origin, nothing's going to stop it. And he was, you know, that's, what a beautiful way to handle malpractice. And to make sure you're not being a malpractitioner, you know. Hey, if it's not from God, it's not going anywhere. Because it's not real. And nothing real can make itself real. And nothing real can mislead people. And nothing real can hurt people. You know, if it's from God and it's real, then nothing can stop it and let it be. But if it's not from God, it's going to fail on its own. Because it doesn't have that divine impetus behind it. It's interesting. He was Paul's teacher. So Saul's teacher. You know, Saul was very angry at Jesus. How dare he? You know, Saul actually went to the council to get papers to round up the Jews that were practicing Christianity. They called them Christians. Gamaliel was his teacher when he was Saul. And then he had that conversion. Imagine if you had a teacher in the Jewish religion and you're just, you know, you want to protect your religion, protect your traditions, because, hey, that's what Moses taught us. That's what Abraham taught us. That's what Isaiah taught us. Elisha, you know, this is what the way it is. I am absolutely sure we haven't gone and changed anything. Like, I am absolutely sure in the thousands of years between us and Moses and whatever, like, or however many years, that nothing has changed. You know, that's how they felt, you know, and we got to protect that. And so, you know, they weren't malicious. The people that crucified Jesus weren't malicious. They were what they would have called good Jews. Like, they were just holding up the traditions, making sure people didn't go against, you know, the writings and the prophets and, you know, the Sanhedrin and, you know, the Pharisees and the law. The law was, you know, the thing. They weren't malicious. They just, they took a side. They felt like, this is the right side. This is what I know. This is what is true to me. And I'm going to protect it with, you know, my life and with other people's lives. I'm going to protect this. And, But they managed to kill, or try to kill Jesus. But Paul had his conversion. And I bet that had a lot to do with the fact that his teacher, Gamaliel, it's probably more like it, was the one that told the Sanhedrin, hey, if it's not from God, it's not going anywhere. Let's not worry about it. If it is from God, we can't do anything about it. And maybe that's a key to Saul's conversion to Paul, is that there was something in his prior teachings that maybe allowed some kind of opening to, I don't have to hate. I don't have to fear. I don't have to worry for the fate of the church, the fate of the teachings. Maybe there was something that opened that up for Saul, that enabled him to have that conversion, that moment on the road to Damascus. But had Jesus' teachings been from human origin, that would have been it. It wouldn't have gone anywhere. Nothing of human origin lasts or has power, or, eventually it all comes crumbling down. And I think if you love the truth more than anything, the truth meaning what is real, what is true, and I may not know it all. I may think I do, but I'm open. I'm open and I'm willing, and I trust that whatever is from God can't be stopped. But if whatever is from human origin, it's just part of the illusion, part of the dream, and it doesn't have the power to stay. It doesn't have the power to hurt. It doesn't have the power to misdirect. That's, I think, a wonderful way to, if you're on the side of being angry at someone, or feel like someone is deserving of your hatred or your fear or your worry or your judgment or your criticism, maybe take that road. If you can't listen because the anger or the resentment is so strong, and you can't get quiet, and you can't be at peace, and you can't hear God's voice, then just a quiet trust that God able is. God never asked us to be in charge or to protect his flock or to go to war with someone or some ideology. God never asked us to do any of that. God is of purer eyes than to behold iniquity, and so are we. We are of purer eyes than to believe, to make iniquity real, to make something real, and to resent it, and to hate it, and to fear it, and to worry about it. If God can't do it, if God is unable, we are more than unable. God able is to raise up seed in thought and deed to faithful his. God able is. I think that we often think our treatments are what heal, or our right thinking is what heals. But God never gave that power to us and said, you take care of it. You can heal yourselves. You can fix the world. You can stop the wars. You can stop all the terrible things happening. And I'll just sit back and let you take care of it. You know, that power was never handed over to us. And I think that when we get in that feeling of needing to protect, you know, needing to fight for what's right, we forget. It's mortal mind. It's acting within the dream as if God's not there. Where's God in the dream? Where's God in my thinking? Where's God in this, like, got to protect? I think a lot about the people that you see, like, because lately it's been coming up in the news a lot, like, the angry people in the South when segregation was ending, and they were desegregating the schools, and they were desegregating everything. And the anger of the people that lived there, the white people, towards this concept of desegregation. Like, you can see pictures, you can Google pictures of their faces and their hatred and their fear. I mean, they were so afraid of what desegregation would mean to their lives, to their families, to their religion, to, you know, and we look back on it now and we go, oh, I feel sad that they were so afraid, so, you know, angry, so hurt. Like, you look in their faces in these pictures when they're like, I mean, they look like they could hold a pitchfork. The hatred and the fear and the anger on these, just your average Joe, your average male and female, like, they weren't like, they weren't the KKK. No, they weren't. They were just your average family on the block, you know, yelling and angry at this desegregation happening in the South. But we can look at it back now and we can say, oh, your fears were misplaced and your worries were misplaced. And it was because of your education and your conditioning, and it wasn't right. No, it wasn't right. But we can see how governed they were by fear and the unknown, and what they thought for generations was the truth, their truth. Much like, you know, the Jewish people, you know, when Jesus overturned the money changers table, like, the average Jewish person would be like, what? Why are you doing this? And, you know, this is what we do. You know, we travel all over, we bring our money, we buy our sacrifices, and that's a tradition from Abraham. You know, that's our, you know, the prophets and our fathers. That's the law. I don't understand what you're doing. You know, but we look back on it now and we say, well, they didn't understand their hatred, their fear of losing something so valuable to them that they thought was so valuable. We look at it back at it now, and well, we got Jesus out of the deal. We got all his teachings out of the deal, and we're forever grateful. And was, you know, the forgiveness of another human being seems to be one of the most difficult battles we deal with. I know when I first started doing self-examination and asking God to show me the roadblocks in my thinking, it was a lot of resentment. And it felt to me as it was like well-placed resentment, well-placed anger, well-placed hurt. These people had done these things to me, said these things to me, it's real. Or so I thought, and it took quite a while of me praying every day and asking to be shown all these roadblocks. And there were years of prayer and years of this gaining of humility. And, I had moments where I just all of a sudden burst in tears because I realized how terrible I had been to someone that I felt was anger placed correctly at them, and how horrible I had been to them for so long. But I didn't see it at the time. I was very angry, and if I talked to other people about it, they'd be like, "Oh, that's terrible," It was, others would get right in there with me, and yeah, they shouldn't be doing that, and blah, 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 blah. That I think that happens, like the mobs that formed around Jesus. Like, we have friends and family that will join our mob of, yeah, and that's not right, and that shouldn't be this, and that shouldn't be that, and it's the same thing. And then to have these moments where you're shown, when you become humble enough and it's time, you're shown, oh my gosh, what hatred I felt. And this person had no intentions of hurting me. They didn't know any better. They couldn't do any better. They were under the mesmerism of mortal mind. That's what I always get to, is they're under the mesmerism of mortal mind, and they're so locked in to that belief and that dream and that concept of right or wrong that they don't know any better. They can't do any better. They honestly can't do any better until they start on their waking up process. And also I find it's easier for them to do better and wake up once they don't have someone malpracticing them all the time. Because the malpractice, it kind of locks them in, because you have another human mind saying, you're a bad person, you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're directing all this anger and hate and resentment and fear and worry at them, they feel that. People feel malpractice. We all feel malpractice. We're just not always aware of it. Like if you start feeling like low about yourself, like, I'm not a good person. Who do I think I am? What the heck am I doing? That's often malpractice. Others are jealous of you or resentful of you or think that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. All kinds of feelings that come to us. A lot of irritation. Sometimes if we start being really mentally irritated and we're like, what's going on? I don't really know. It's other people's thoughts on us. It can't be helped in this material universe. It can't be helped. You're going to run into that all of the time for the rest of the time that you seem to be here in the material universe, which you never really were or are, but you will deal with it. And what happens is you get better. You get better at not malpracticing others, because you do start to see. Forgiveness was something that took me a long time in my journey of healing. And you get to the point where you see, others they're doing the best they can. And if they could do better, they would do better. And how can you hate someone for like not being able to do any better because they're under the spell of mortal mind. How can you? You can't. And so you become less of a malpractitioner over time, and you become better at detecting when you're being malpracticed, and not letting it, okay, I'm feeling low about myself right now. Is that the truth? Should I feel low about myself? Am I less than others, or bad person, or stuff to be? Should I be ashamed of myself? Like shame. Like when I left the church, they actually said shame, like a friend of mine, shame on you, like, and pointed her finger at me. That shame, you don't have a person with malpractice, you don't have a person sitting there pointing at you, yelling shame, but they're thinking it. And it's just, in the manual for primary class, teachers are supposed to teach two things: what malpractice is and how to handle it, and the chapter on recapitulation. She felt it was very important that we learn that. And now I know why. Now you know why, because it's something that's done 24/7 in this material world, and it's something you just need to be alert to. You learn to forgive others. Now when political stuff comes up that used to make me so angry because, oh, how could they do that? Oh, don't they know what they're doing? Oh, I'm like, well, I really do have this attitude now. If it's not from God, it's nothing. It's not real. It can't hurt any of us. And that's coming from a place of real deep understanding. It can't hurt any of us. And if it's from God, who can stop it? And I let it go. And I let it all go. And I just watch everything like it's a movie. But that didn't come overnight. That was many, many years of humbly and asking to be shown the roadblocks in my thinking. So I've become less of a malpractitioner. And yeah, you do catch yourself. Like, I'm not perfect. I catch myself sometimes and I'm like, stop. Go within. Be quiet. Listen to Gamaliel's words. Love thy neighbor as thyself is self-preservation. If you engage in malpractice, then you cannot protect yourself against malpractice, because you're just on the same level of the malpractice. It's time, you have to rise above the malpractice, and love your neighbor as yourself is, we are all one. And what you think reflects most back on you the worst, the hardest, because it's your thoughts engaging in mortal thinking. And when you're engaged in mortal thinking, you can be malpracticed. You are living on that realm of thinking, or that state of thinking where error seems real and truth seems elusive. It might take time to get to a place where you can say what Gamaliel said and believe it and actually feel that way. But that is the best antidote for malpractice, is a real state of knowing, okay, they don't know what they're doing. And being able to look back like we do at the, desegregation in the South, at all the anger. They didn't know. They were so mesmerized by their hate and their fear. by what other people had taught them. You know, that movie, King and I, you have to be taught to hate. Is it The King and I? Oh, no, South Pacific. But so many, hate is taught, fear is taught. And, they were taught that, their parents were taught that, who are we going to blame? Is it going to keep going back and back and back? I mean, is there someone who started it all that we can go back and blame them? No, it's all taught, and it's all part of the mortal illusion. And there's like a compassion that you have as you ascend the scale of thought, and as you allow humility, allow self-knowledge. You allow God to teach you and to show you the way out of the mortal illusion. You stop, you become the one that stops the cycle for your family, for your friends. I'm not going to be passing this hate, this fear, this judgment, this criticism, this ignorance on to others. I'm going to be the one that stops it. I don't care who started it. I'm not going to, point fingers and blame who got mesmerized first, who got deluded first by the illusion. I'm just going to put a stop to it. And I'm going to be the one. So I'm feeling better. I am feeling more free from this, whatever this thing going on right now, where I can't seem to catch my breath very easily, where it's every human need is love. Every human needs love. In the mortal sphere, what humans seem to need the most is love. If you're protecting your religion, you're protecting your church, you're protecting your traditions, your values. And you are protecting it with a fierceness, like something a hatred of others that might take that from you, or might break that apart. And just remember, everyone needs love. What the mortal illusion is a seeming separation from love. We seem to be cut off from our divine source. We aren't, but in belief, that's what it feels like, and that's what it seems to be, it's an existence seemingly cut off from God. And it brings a lot of compassion when you can see it that way. Compassion for others that are upset, angry, fearful, maybe saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, being the wrong way. This whole illusion is to feel you're cut in two, a split mind, part mortal, part spirit, part truth, part error, part love, part hate. It's the realm of opposites. And there are no real opposites in truth, in divine mind, in spirit. There's only good, only God, only truth, only love, pure, unadulterated love. And to stop being a part of this belief that other people are cut off from that love, from that truth, from that I think that's one of the biggest gifts I got in my journey, in my ascension journey, is this freedom from playing a part in making someone feel like they are truly cut off from all the good, from the love, from everything. And knowing that I'm actually helping by not hurting, by not hating, by not feeling self-righteous, that I know this and others don't. I know what's right, others don't. They shouldn't be saying this, they shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't, you know. It's a gift to get that freedom, to gain that freedom from that side of it. It's a gift on both sides, but I think it's the bigger gift, where you no longer are part of, you're no longer a participating part of the mortal illusion. And what a gift. So I hope that helps.